The Salesman of the Year did it with panache in 2009, manipulating records and clients. It got our Rocket Singh what he wanted, but leap out of the 70mm screen for just a bit. While the box office didn't, reality might question his business ethic. Rocket Singh's business tip of the year, ladies and gentlemen, grey is the new black and white. What's the right and wrong in business ethics? That's more than just a fair question today. Taking a cue from not real but a real story, the Enron bankruptcy. Imaginary profits, fat employee bonuses, and manipulated books were only a few of the best-kept secrets of the world's 7th largest corporation. From natural gas, energy, oil to broadband, Enron played the field, setting itself up for one of the biggest corporate frauds so far.
I soon discovered that Enron was the Studio 54 of corporate America, the epitome of megacorp decadence. I heard rumors of strippers roaming the hall and all-night parties at hotels and bars. Enron was all about excess. It was more, now.
One of its debacles even reached Indian shores. The Dabhol Power project in Maharashtra was stalled as the government could not afford to pay for power at Enron's rate. The only ethical framework within which Enron operated was wealth creation at any cost. There was zero accountability within and outside. Closer home, another man was manipulating books and its 53,000 employees into believing in that big Indian IT dream. Ramalingam Raju of Satyam.
Irony of ironies, accounting trouble at a company whose name means truth in the words of India's markets regulator. It's horrifying. This could possibly be one of the biggest setbacks for the country.
Today saw 3 board members resign, and of them, of course, some of the high-profile members, those 3 directors who have resigned include Vinod Dham, the IT specialist. We have seen he's the independent and non-executive director resigning. The funny thing is that only about a couple of days ago he wrote a mail to NDTV saying that he wanted a special board meeting in order to see if there can be changes. Also, Professor Krishna Palepu, non-executive director and a well-known academician, also has stepped down from the board. And the third one to go today was the controversial dean of the Indian School of Business, Ram Mohan Rao, who, in a way, supported the entire deal just till a few days ago. Today saying that he wanted to resign. No reason for those resignations have been cited.
Raju himself confessed to have inflated profits with the main company. What started with a small cover-up went on to become $1 billion worth of fake assets. In his words, he was riding a tiger without knowing when he could get off without being eaten. Much like PR professional and corporate lobbyist Neera Radia, with key telecom companies as her clients, she was accused of using her influence for a ministerial pick in 2010. Accusations of deep-seated corruption and the 2G scam unfolded, and a raging debate on whether corporate India can subvert the government, media and policy for business quickly took center stage. But not all corporate irregularities are as newsworthy. There were quieter instances of law falling to pieces. The weave of the Indian carpet industry often passes these small hands. Flouting all laws banning child labour, the Indian carpet industry thrives, with little benefit passing on to the families of these labourers. Questioning these illegalities is the United Nations Global Compact, a program to promote better business practices across the world. But there are companies already setting higher standards. The Golden Peacock Awards have recently recognized companies like Tata Motors, Mahindra & Mahindra, GAIL, DCM Shriram for occupational health and safety, helping employees enjoy a safe and comfortable work environment. Several companies are also seeking Bureau of Indian Standards product certification. Voluntary in nature, it's helping consumers build faith in the brand. The certification has even been made mandatory for some items such as milk products, LPG cylinders, packaged drinking water. But with no central regulatory body, businesses are often left to their own devices. Shell, one of the largest oil and natural gas companies of the world, under fire for human rights violation and adverse environmental impact, has set up a global internet facility for whistleblowers. They have adopted a voluntary code of ethics pledging transparency. The worldwide WikiLeaks movement and the support it has generated is testimony to how transparency is the need of the hour. But where there is no introspection within, the pressure comes from outside. Civil society actors like the Center for Science and Environment based in New Delhi have consistently applied pressure on the government and corporations to get their act together. Whether it's the presence of pesticides in aerated drinks or ban of poisonous pesticide endosulfan in Kerala, they are trying to get the toxic out of our system. There are also attempts to now introduce a formal code of ethics. National Human Rights Commission, in partnership with ICSM, is developing a code for the Indian industry. For the sake of the consumers and the employees, the most important stakeholders, looks like business decisions will no longer stay within the boardroom.
May I ask what you're doing in my boardroom?
The eyes and ears are on the small and big businesses across the world, and how they define their black and white is on companies' high-powered agenda.